Friends, welcome to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. Patrick woke up to sunlight greeting him through the open blinds. The sounds of a winter morning in full swing informed him that it was too late. The voices of the neighbors clearing the snow, driving cars on a slushy road. Even the wind seemed to be full of activity. Since he became a teetotaler, Patrick used to get up before the sun to greet the world. It strangely reminded him of the days lost to alcoholism. Another familiar feeling, a hangover. He had obviously had too much to drink last night. He groaned, trying to lift his head off the pillow, which he immediately regretted. The throbbing in his skull punished him and reminded him that the softness of the pillow was his friend. He obeyed and plunged deeper into her. 5 more minutes, he lied to himself, closing his eyes. He was almost asleep when he felt the bed next to him move. A rustle under the blanket he was lying under alarmed him. He opened his eyes just in time to see a slender arm wrapped around his torso. Throwing off the blankets, Patrick was shocked to the core. "Good morning, Patty," Kendra said, yawning, her eyes fluttering open. Damn it. He finally had the strength to lift his head. A quick inspection of the room showed that he was not sleeping in his own bed, and not in my room. If he hadn't had such a hangover, he would have collected all the evidence much earlier. This king-size bed is too soft to be his. The plump pillow he slept on seemed too high quality for what he had bought. Besides, it smelled like lavender. His house smelled of sweat. The voices of neighbors shuffling with a shovel? He lives in an apartment building. The neighbors don't clean the snow. They complain about it to the managers of the complex. And yet, there was a sense of familiarity in this unfamiliar bedroom. He's been in this room for years. I remember the day I bought this bed. These pillows. These curtains. It's a blanket. He was in his old bedroom, which he shared with his wife. Kendra? Yes? What the hell is going on? She chuckled at the question, gently stroking his chest with her hand. What do you mean? What the hell is going on? What does it look like? We're waking up. Patrick grabbed her hand and held it to him so that she would stop stroking him. The gentle movements made his body react whether he wanted to or not. Why do we wake up in the same bed? What is it? He asked, his tone serious. Oh, it's simple, she said with a devilish grin. Of course, because we had love. Wait, what? She giggled, as if his panicked question didn't bother her at all. Her hands rose casually above her head as she stretched. Her legs stretched out in the opposite direction. Patrick couldn't help but run his gaze over her legs. When she finished stretching, she sat on her side, propped her head on her hand, and put her elbow on the mattress. She looked like she was posing for a painting. Still beautiful, even after all these years. Even with her tousled hair and no makeup on her face, she was the most beautiful woman who had ever let him take off her clothes. Familiar feelings stirred in his loins. He mentally suppressed them. He needed answers, and to get them, he didn't have to get excited. Switching back to a serious tone, he asked, "So you're saying we had love?" "Yes. I don't believe it." "Trust me," she said, rolling away from him. This roll brought her right to the edge of the bed, where she gracefully slipped out from under the covers. Now Patrick had a full view of his almost naked wife. She was wearing only a thin t-shirt and panties. To make matters worse, she wasn't ashamed of it at all. I didn't try to cover myself. She didn't look embarrassed. In fact, she was grinning merrily, as if his confusion was funny. "I warned you not to drink so much," she said, putting her hands on her hips to playfully rebuke him. "Do you really not remember what we did last night? All the nasty things that I let your lecherous ass do to me?" "Heh." She giggled and shook her head before continuing. "I'm not complaining, but you were never that ugly when we were together." Oh, damn it, Patrick thought. She's not joking. It seems that last night I actually used my wife. As Kendra laughed at how much Patrick panicked, his mind raced against time. He desperately rewound his memory, trying to find an explanation. The images of the New Year's Eve party began clearly and cheerfully. He remembered meeting Dave and Charlotte. I had a few drinks. I saw my rejected wife there, flirting with some jerk. I had another drink, dancing with a beautiful woman. I was fighting with Kendra. I made up with Kendra. I had another drink. A kiss at midnight. From that moment on, everything became a little hazy. Last night was a victory for Patrick. On New Year's Eve 2020, Patrick was sitting on the floor in his living room, alone and drunk. The only thing he was thinking about was how he should die. He had nothing to live for. That's what he thought. He spent 2021 climbing out of the pit he lived in. The death of a brother. The death of marriage. The death of the safe and secure life of the average American. In 2020, he had to mourn these deaths. In 2021, he had to move on. But 2022 was a revelation for him. He saw not only how much life there was in himself, but also how much life he brought to the world around him. He got out of the hole of the depths of his despair in which he lived and forced himself to live. Not just to be alive, but to live. Find a hobby. Make new friends. Spending time with my daughter. To do more than just work hard at a job that he barely tolerates. For the first time in many years, Patrick did not feel ambivalent about attending a meeting that his rejected wife would attend. I didn't feel a cramp in my stomach thinking about meeting her. That is, until I saw her. If God existed, Kendra would be an ugly crone that he could quickly forget. He could be sure that she would never find love with another man, and would spend the rest of her days alone and longing for him. Why does she always light up the room with her smile? Why does her laughter make you laugh? Why is she still the most beautiful woman Patrick has ever seen? The main question is, why didn't their breakup affect her as much as it did him? When he caught her cheating, his world collapsed. And then he collapsed too. I started drinking more. I stopped playing sports. He barricaded himself from the whole world, leaving his squalid apartment only to work. And she's thriving. Being a single woman, she spread her phoenix wings and took off. I went on dates with my new beau to art museums, went away for a fun short weekend, made mind-blowing love. She smiled more, cried less, and really seemed like a happier woman. And tonight was no different from the others. Her form-fitting cocktail dress accentuated her curves. The high-heeled shoes showed off her slender legs. They emphasized how beautifully she was dressed, and at the same time did not seem like an advertisement. How she managed to keep such a figure when she was already under 40 is a miracle that only fairy godmothers are capable of. No wonder she was able to replace him with a man almost 10 years younger than herself. The truth is that Kendra will only be single as long as she wants to be. Even now, when she's standing in the corner drinking champagne, there's some guy taking his chance. Patrick saw it. He doesn't need to hear what they're talking about to know that they're not talking about the weather. He looked at her, smiled at her, leaned closer, talking to initiate contact. This is obvious. She didn't even need to make an effort. All that remained was to stand, smile, and watch as all the bees came to her in the hope of pollinating her flower. But you know what? He accepted it. Had to. If he had based his happiness on whether she was suffering from the consequences of having broken his heart in the most cruel way, he would have remained attached to her forever. Because, to be honest, there is no such fate that could compare with what he had to go through. Patrick's thoughts were interrupted by a voice coming from his left. 10. Are my eyes deceiving me? He heard the words of his friend Dave. Dave and his wife Charlotte were a couple having a party. Patrick turned just in time to see Dave slowly and dramatically approaching him. He looked like he was approaching a rare animal that he didn't want to scare away. Dave, Patrick said, nodding his head. St. Patrick? Are you really here at my party in the flesh? Has he finally decided to make us mere mortals happy with his presence? You're a jerk. You only saw me last week, Patrick said, and a couple of friends laughed. The brotherly handshake between them turned into a strong embrace. Yes, but that was by accident. I just happened to run into you at the gym. This time you came to me on purpose. It doesn't matter. I'm touched, Dave said, maintaining his cheerful, joking manner. I feel special that you found my party worthy enough of your highness's presence. Patrick pushed him lightly before saying, Shut up and take me to the drinks. Dave's greeting was more than just Patrick's greeting at his first party in ages. It also announced his presence to Kendra. Right now, the man next to her has been working on her since she walked in almost an hour ago. He was charming, funny, he's handsome, and Kendra was flattered by his attention. But then she heard Patrick's name. At first, she thought her ears were wrong. After a quick glance around the room, She found her estranged husband laughing and joking with Dave. All interest in the man on her right had evaporated. Patrick looked really good. Lately, every time she saw him, it seemed to her, it seemed to her that she was seeing the man she had met for the first time. He stood tall. He was confident in himself. He laughed and smiled more often. He no longer hid in his apartment, hiding from the whole world. It became convenient for him to appear in public. This Patrick was not the Patrick she was used to. He refused to live. He refused to be happy. He refused the people who loved him. He refused her. That Patrick was suffering alone in his tiny hell between his ears. But he was changing. Kendra saw it. Every meeting with him showed how much he was changing. At first, she suspected that these changes in him were temporary, that this was his attempt to impress her. But it became obvious that his changes had nothing to do with her. Now he was doing rock climbing. I rode a bike and practiced martial arts. I went to the gym and on dates. The last one was hard for Kendra to swallow. At first, she didn't know that he was dating other women. He didn't tell her anything about his life. Everything she learned about him had to be extracted from their daughter Jessie through high-level interrogation. All she knew was that he was becoming more and more inaccessible. Previously, as soon as she had problems with the house, he immediately rushed to solve them. It didn't matter when she called him or how minor the problem was. And in truth, most of the problems were just a subtle reason to see his face, because she missed him. But lately he has been busy. Wasn't the jealousy she felt knowing he was dating hypocritical? Does she have the right to feel slightly annoyed that he is dating other women while she is more than available? Her affair has been going on for more than a year and a half. It was hard to fire Sean, but as soon as she did, it was like the fog lifted. She had once thought she was in love with this man. They often talked about how their lives would have turned out if she had actually left Patrick to be with him. They would have bought a house with a big backyard together. They would have taken a Siberian husky into the family. They filled their new home with art objects and modern furniture. She, Sean, and Jessie would go on a family vacation. They would tell all their friends a purified story about how they met. We would spend nights in each other's arms, using each other until we lost consciousness in post-coital bliss. It sounds like heaven, but it wasn't heaven, but a fantasy, far from reality. In the real world, Kendra is married to a man she still loves. She has a daughter who will never accept Sean as a father. She has family and friends who are disappointed with the choice she made. She has a sense of guilt for the lives she has changed. And because of all this, she cried every night. "Would you excuse me, Barry?" Kendra said, interrupting the man who was desperately trying to charm her. "I saw someone I need to say hello to." Looking slightly depressed, Barry said, "My name is Brent." "Heh? Brent," he repeated, although she was clearly distracted and barely paying attention to him. "My name is Brent." Smiling sweetly, Kendra replied, "Of course." With that, she left, making her way through the guests. By this time, Patrick and Dave had already left the living room, so I had to look for him a little. Finally, she caught up with him in the kitchen, where he was getting a drink. Out of the corner of his eye, Patrick noticed her approach. Part of him was surprised that she had abandoned her suitor to talk to him. The other part expected it. "Hello, Patty," she said gently. "Hi, Ken." Dave felt that it would be nice to gracefully withdraw. Patting Patrick on the shoulder encouragingly, he said, I'm going to look for Charlotte." Before Patrick could protest, Dave was already gone. The two of them stood there for a while, saying nothing. Finally, Kendra broke their silence. "I didn't know you'd be here tonight. Where's Jessie?" "My parents have it. They insisted that I drop her off and go have fun." She nodded in agreement with his parents. "Okay. It's nice to see you in the company of people." She said it seriously, but the statement soon turned sour in her mouth. As Patrick took a sip of beer, worry lines appeared on Kendra's forehead. She mentally imagined all the times she had seen him drunk in the past, how he walks around in a sullen state, angry at the whole world. And then she saw him sitting alone in his living room, almost ready to end his life. "And are you sure you should drink? Didn't you go to Alcoholics Anonymous after? You mean after I tried to kill myself?" The brusque manner in which he talked about something so terrible caught her off guard. He said it like it was a joke. "It's not funny," she said, her tone deadly serious. I'm not laughing. When he wanted to take a sip from his mug, she grabbed his wrist. Seriously, shouldn't you be abstaining from drinking? Ken, I'm fine, Patrick said, his voice full of annoyance. It's a party. I don't need you to babysit me. Yes, but don't you have a boyfriend to have fun? He spat out, interrupting her. Why did you come here for me in the first place? We both know that you enjoy the company of other men. He immediately regretted those words as soon as they left his mouth. They were intentionally offensive, and they did their job. He expected her to yell at him and maybe throw her drink in his face. He'll call him an asshole, maybe even slap him in the face. But she didn't do any of that. Instead, he saw tears of resentment in her eyes. Then, without saying a word, she turned on her heel and walked quickly away, leaving Patrick with the sound of shoes clicking on the tiled floor. Damn. Patrick paused to calm down and went to look for her to apologize. But I haven't seen her anywhere. I even found the guy she used to talk to. Unfortunately, she wasn't with him either. He moved on to another woman with whom he had a better chance. She was a little drunker and prettier than Kendra. She must have left. Sighing, he took out his phone and texted her. In response, he received only silence. Knowing her well, he realized that she would probably be mad at him for the rest of the night. He probably won't get an answer until tomorrow. He could forget about it and focus on having fun. After all, this is the first party he's been at lately. That's what he did. He didn't know that Kendra hadn't left. After leaving, she just went into one of the bathrooms to cry. She specially chose the bathroom in the master bedroom because she knew that no one would disturb her there. Why is he such an ass? Why was he treating her like this when she was just worried about his health? It seemed like the old Patrick was still there. He could change his appearance, find new hobbies, start dating girlfriends. But in the end, he was still the same old asshole. Her phone buzzed in her purse. When she picked it up, she saw that it was a message from Patrick. 2 words. Nothing else. I'm sorry. Fuck him. To hell with him. He seemed determined to punish her forever. She had been apologizing to him for more than a year for what she had done, and she didn't know how many more apologies he would need before he would start forgiving her. But you know what? He owes her an apology too. Yes, she was having an affair. This is a huge mistake. The worst in her life. She finally realized the price of her selfishness. Patrick thinks that she managed to escape punishment, but it can't be further from the truth. She sees him around every corner. He hears his voice in the empty corridors. She dreams that he is lying in bed with her, but when she wakes up, she finds that his place is empty. Her actions are not free. The price of her infidelity is high. She cost her family. It was worth a husband. She was worth their daughter's respect. But most importantly, she almost cost Patrick his life. No matter what happened, no matter how angry he was at her, she couldn't forget about him. There was a voice inside her that made her hold on to him, even if he wanted to free himself. Maybe it's a feeling of guilt. Maybe it's love. Maybe it's a perverse mix of both. She didn't know. Her therapist has been trying to help her figure this out for months. All she knows is that Patrick is still inside her, even if she's not inside him. She has to take responsibility for this. And she did it. Many times. But her therapist is right about one thing. Although cheating is very harmful, it is not the only end to all sin. She does not justify the fact that he is also responsible for the destruction of their marriage. Emotionally, he was the one who dumped her long before she even started thinking about another man. He stopped being a partner for her. It doesn't excuse what she did, but her actions don't excuse him either. They both screwed up, but it seems that she was the only one who admitted her guilt. Patrick practically gave himself free rein, due to the fact that it was she who cheated on him. She wiped the tears from her face and looked in the mirror over the sink. God, she looks terrible. The makeup is completely ruined. Red, swollen eyes. A tear-stained face. She looks exactly how she feels. Rummaging in her purse, she found everything she needed to make herself look decent. In just 10 minutes, she wiped off the face of the earth that crying woman who first looked at her and was stunning again. She joined the party again, but first went into the kitchen to get another glass of champagne. Then she went into the living room, where everyone else was. And then I saw it. Patrick dancing with another woman, the younger one, probably in his mid-20s. What the hell? Yes, she knew Patrick was dating. He might have hooked up a couple of times, although Kendra hated the idea of it. But the fact that right in front of her eyes he was attacking some young fool, as if he were 20 damn years old, angered her to the depths of her soul. Kendra was stylish. She wasn't the kind of woman who would fight over a man, especially with a child. It was the men fighting over her. Patrick didn't even notice that he was being watched. When he returned to the party for a drink, a woman he knew struck up a conversation with him. He knew her from his tour group. They talked from time to time, but never for long. Everything has changed tonight. She'd always thought Patrick was cute for an older man. The gray in his dark hair made him look like a love professor. This led to them both laughing, and he asked her to dance. In truth, he wasn't wagging or twisting his hips. However, he danced close to her. So close that I could smell her hair. While Kendra was standing and fuming, Charlotte came up behind her. She and her husband Dave had known Patrick and Kendra for several years. They were known as a couple and as separate people. They witnessed Patrick's mental breakdown, Kendra's infidelity, and their marriage mess. "Hi, girl," Charlotte said, gently touching Kendra's shoulder. She couldn't help the note of sympathy in her voice because she saw where Kendra was looking and knew how she felt. "Hi," Kendra replied, not taking her eyes off the stage in front of her. Pointing to the woman Patrick was dancing with, she asked, "Who is she?" "You remember Patrice, don't you? She works with me. I introduced you when you picked me up one day." "No, I don't remember," Kendra replied icily. Taking a sip from her glass, she added, "You should probably check her papers. You don't want to get arrested for getting a minor drunk. Maybe buy her some juice or something." Charlotte couldn't help but laugh. "Don't be petty," she warned, unable to hide her amusement. "I was just asking." Charlotte took Kendra away from watching Patrick's fun. There was no point in standing there and suffering. Eventually, Patrick realized that Kendra hadn't left. "I saw her walking past the French doors leading to the balcony. She was outside, standing in the cold night, turning away from him and looking at the backyard." Seeing his chance to offer a sincere apology, he approached her. "Hi," he said, his voice deep but quiet. She glanced at him briefly, but did not return the greeting. Sighing, he said, "Listen, about what I said earlier. Did you send your little girlfriend home?" She interrupted. "Heh? Your young dancing partner." Patrick shrugged his shoulders. "No, she just want to get a drink." Kendra made a mocking sound. "I think Charlotte might have some Capri Suns, juice drink, in the fridge." It took him a second, but he had to stop himself from bursting into laughter. "Wait a minute. Are you jealous?" he asked with a grin. This time she was looking straight at him, and that smug grin, and that devilish look in his eyes. It doesn't matter. He had to admit, her jealousy made him feel good. He didn't think she could feel such emotions, at least not towards him. He reached out and touched her shoulder, half expecting her to recoil from his touch, but she didn't recoil. "Can we declare a truce?" he asked sincerely. "I've been acting like an ass and I'm aware of it. I had no right to lash out at you when you were just worried about me." "Sorry." Kendra rolled her eyes and pouted, but nodded after a second. I didn't want to quarrel with him, but still, she wanted to slap him on the chest. However, right after that, she clung to him and pressed her forehead against his shoulder. He wrapped his arms around her and hugged her. They returned to the party, this time together. Then everything became a little hazy. There was also alcohol. Very much. There were games. Kendra and Patrick teamed up, just like in the good old days. There was laughter. There was dancing. There was a lot of fun. And then it was midnight. This countdown. They looked at each other, shouting in unison with the group. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. With that, they kissed. They kissed long and passionately. They kissed as if they had denied it to each other all their lives. They kissed as if it was their last moment on earth. They seemed to have been kissing for hours. And then, he woke up in bed with his wife. "How did I end up here?" "I don't remember leaving the party," Patrick said, looking around his old bedroom. "I called us an Uber. We were both too drunk to drive." He asked, pointing at her. "But not too drunk to make love?" "No, you were more than ready for this." "Ken." Patty, relax, she said, the tone of her voice becoming less playful. I'm making fun of you. There was nothing. What? She shrugged her shoulders. We didn't have love. We came here by Uber because it was easier that way. Jesse stayed with your parents, so you didn't have to rush home. According to the plan, we were supposed to return to Charlotte together in the morning and pick up our cars. Still confused, he asked. But why are we almost naked? Why did they sleep in the same bed? Because you threw up on us, she said, shaking her head as if she was amused by his antics. I warned you not to drink so much. Looking back, he remembered it. He remembered her high-pitched squeal of disgust when he vomited beer in her direction. So, after that, she sighed, and then finished his sentence. After that, we both fell into bed and fell asleep. That's all. Really? She snorted with laughter. Do you really think I need love from a man? Patrick couldn't hold back the deep sigh of relief that escaped him. But, to tell the truth, there was some part of him disappointed. I don't think so, he said with a shrug. Seeing his relief that they didn't have love, Kendra felt a little sad. It's a testament to how far apart they've become. Come on, get up, she said, shaking off the feeling. She grabbed the blankets and quickly pulled them off, leaving him naked on the bed. We need to take a shower so we can get out. Patrick nodded in agreement, but remained seated. They looked at each other longingly. Then, with a sigh, Patrick got out of bed and headed for the shower. Kendra watched him disappear into the bathroom. It looked so natural, as if this particular scene was supposed to happen here. She lied, saying that there was nothing between them. No, they didn't have love, but he wrapped his arms around her and hugged her all night. Yes, it was more muscle memory than anything else, but they were lying together, their bodies touching. She listened to him snoring softly in her ear until she dozed off too. It was the right one. Her place is in his arms. He belongs in her bed. He was too stupid to understand that, and neither was she. With that, she made a decision. Grabbing the hem of her t-shirt, she lifted it up and pulled it over her head. She also hooked her thumbs into the waistband of her panties and pulled them off her hips to the floor. Hey, move over, she said with a sly smile, appearing in the bathroom completely naked. Patrick's shocked expression was almost comical. He couldn't stop himself from taking in her entire length with his gaze. Yes, he had seen his wife naked many times, but it seemed like a lifetime ago. And now it was as if he was seeing her for the first time. Without clothes, Kendra was not the ideal goddess that the world imagined. Yes, she is beautiful, but she is just a human being. She has human flaws. This cellulite on the ass, excessive sagging of the chest, a small pouch on his stomach, wrinkles around the edges of the eyes. But that was the part she wanted Patrick to see. I wanted to be vulnerable with him. She wanted him to see her for who she was. She didn't want to be some kind of unattainable goddess for him. She wanted to be his wife again, and she was tired of playing this game they were playing together. Unable to speak, he fulfilled her wish and made room for her. She took a step towards him, taking a place right under the shower head, just like she always did in the past when they showered together. She didn't seduce him. I wasn't trying to arouse you. I just started washing myself, standing with my back to him, as I would have done if he hadn't been there. Patrick openly admired his wife. I watched the water cascade down her back, over her ass, over her thighs, and into the drain on the floor. I watched her lather up and let the streams of water wash everything away. When she finished washing, she turned to face him. Their eyes met. Finally, she said, when we finally make love, you won't have to wonder if you did it. You'll know that. And I won't have to lure you into my bed. You will come voluntarily and beg me for it. A strange expression appeared on his face. It wasn't playful or lascivious, as it should have been after such a statement. It was there, hunted. And that was the whole point. That look, as if he had seen a ghost, was almost the same as if Sean was in the shower with the two of them. No matter how much Kendra wanted it, her actions with the young man forever tainted everything that she and Patrick could have had. Patrick needed time. A lot of time. But the fact that he hadn't filed for divorce yet gave her hope. Kendra leaned over and kissed him. Nothing romantic, just a soft kiss. Smiling sadly, she said, "If you ever decide to come back to me, Patty, I'll be waiting for you. Just know that I'm sorry for what I did to you and that I love you." With that, she stepped out of the shower, leaving him alone with his thoughts.